Hi everybody, welcome to my room. This is my channel. This is the Box Talk, and I just want to thank everybody who's been watching my videos. I know it's not even past 100 views, but every time I get a view, I gotta be honest, it makes me smile. Every time I get a like, I'm like, I'm the most popular guy in the world, so you guys really do a lot for me. And I appreciate you guys listening to me talk. I mean, that's a huge favor. And I know my voice isn't the doesn't have like the tenacity as Jim Lampley's voice does, or it's just deep, and I understand that, but thanks for giving me the chance, and I really appreciate it. I just got out of work. I've been working really hard in the snow and the rain, parking cars because I work at Toyota. But regardless, I want to come here and do my favorite thing, which is talk to you guys about my favorite sport, which is boxing. So I don't know, I just want to talk about basically Sugar Ray Robinson. And the reason why I want to talk about Sugar Ray Robinson is because when you talk about boxing, you also wonder who in the world was the best fighter of all time. And a lot of people would say Muhammad Ali. A lot of people would say Mike Tyson. A lot of people would say Sugar Ray Leonard. But many boxing analysts, and that's basically how I got my opinion of it too. Many boxing analysts boil it down to Sugar Ray Robinson. Now Sugar Ray Robinson, he was first known as Walker J. Smith. That was his original name, of course. But when he started boxing at around age 12, 13, to get out of the streets, he had to change his name to get into a tournament, which his trainer was trying to get him into, because he was so dominant in the sport that he couldn't get into the tournament without being a certain age, and his trainer really thought it'd be good for him to get into this tournament, so he borrowed another one of his fighters' license. His name was Ray Robinson, and gave it to Walker J. Smith to use. And ever since then, everybody's known him as Ray Robinson. But the alias as Sugar came when somebody saw Ray Robinson fight, and they were like, hey, that kid looks sweet. That kid looks as sweet as sugar. So then they decided, oh, that sounds good. Let's put Sugar in the name. So thus was created Sugar Ray Robinson. And I think that name is just one of the best fighting names ever. At the time, maybe it sounded a little bit fruity, but now, honestly, in my opinion, you should only give sugars to the fighters that deserve it. The nickname Sugar is sacred to me. You have Sugar Ray Robinson, you have Sugar Ray Leonard, and you had Sugar Shane Mosley. Out of the three, I feel like Sugar Shane Mosley did not live up to the hype. No doubt he was very good in his prime. He was knocking everybody out. He beat Oscar De La Hoya twice, and he had some wars. He did very good in his professional career. Regardless, I feel he didn't have as many notable wins as a Sugar, in my opinion, would require. Of course, I'm not a Mosley hater, but at the same time, I feel the name is sacred. You want to give the name Sugar to the all-time greats. So Sugar Ray Robinson, once he was named Sugar, he went into the sport dominating. He was undefeated as an amateur, and then when he went to be pro at age 19, he had, I'm gonna say, 45 straight professional victories, and his first loss came to the hands of Jake LaMotta in their second fight. And Jake LaMotta, he's a tough man. He was the Raging Bull of his time. His nickname was the Raging Bull. And if you ever get the chance to see the movie Raging Bull by Robert De Niro, which portrays Jake LaMotta, almost like a biography of Jake LaMotta, it's a very good film. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's Robert De Niro's best film, in my opinion, and it's one of the best boxing films you'll ever see in your life. I highly recommend you watch this movie. It's amazing. I'll talk about it in another separate video. It's stupendous. It's really fascinating, and I love it because of just how they portray those Italians living in the Bronx in those times. It's great. So back to Sugar. So Sugar lost to Jake LaMotta, but Sugar had 6 fights in total with Jake LaMotta, and Jake won 1, and Sugar won the other 5. So out of the 2 of them, you can clearly guess who's the best. Regardless, I'm not gonna say Jake LaMotta got lucky with that one fight. He knocked down Sugar Ray Robinson I don't know if it was for the first time, but he knocked him down and kicked his ass in the second fight. Uh, Sugar Ray Robinson never gotten his ass kicked that bad, and forever the two will be known as the arch nemesis of each other. So that's a high honor for Jake LaMotta to be considered Sugar Ray Robinson's toughest opponent ever. Because Sugar Ray Robinson, the reason he is #1 of all time is because of the wars he's had, and those wars came after his prime. When he was in his prime, the only defeat he suffered was Jake LaMotta, and I don't think that really has any tarnish to his reputation. I mean, yeah, you could say Julio Cesar Chavez should be considered the greatest of all time because he went 88 fights and undefeated. But perfect record does not mean anything, regardless if you have no notable wins. Sugar Robinson fought everybody, and everybody he lost to, he beat them in the rematch. And if you're gonna compare Floyd Mayweather to Sugar Ray Robinson in his prime, all he lost to was Jake LaMotta. So everyone has that one bad day, you know. If Floyd Mayweather was fighting as much as Sugar Ray Robinson, no doubt he would have lost maybe 1 or 2 there. But Sugar Ray Robinson, his job was to fight. He fought once every month, and I remember one time with the Jake LaMotta, he fought Jake LaMotta one day, and the next 3 weeks he fought him again in the rematch. So that just goes to show that Sugar Ray Robinson was a born fighter. His living was fighting. And no doubt these guys got hurt and had to take some time off, but not too much time. They used thinner gloves back then. And not only that, of course the medicine wasn't as, or the doctors, the medical treatment wasn't as advanced as it is now. And nor were the referees. I'm going to say they were concerned, of course, but not as concerned as today because of all the deaths that have occurred in boxing. And Sugar Ray Robinson, an interesting story is that Sugar Ray Robinson, sadly, he did kill somebody in the ring. But the night before, he had a dream that he was going to kill his opponent in the ring. And he did not want to fight that man. But everybody talked him into fighting the guy because they said, don't worry, Sugar, it's just a dream. It's not going to happen. Next thing you know, he fights the guy, knocks him out, and ends up killing him. And he felt so bad about it that with the winnings of the fight, he bought the kid's mother a house. So Sugar was a very nice man. He was very humble. No, I'm going to say he could be humble and he could be the cockiest bastard you've ever met. In his time, Sugar Robinson was cocky. If we were to have Sugar Ray Robinson in our era, he would seem to us as a 1950s type of swagger. We'd all be, oh wow, he has some pizzazz to him. He's no way at all cocky. But back then, his sort of acting was very cocky. Driving a pink Cadillac or whatever it was, and just basically, having his whole entourage behind him and being all Swayze and shit. He wasn't acting at all like Adrian Broner is right now, right? Adrian Broner is no doubt cocky to us, but back then, Sugar Ray Robinson, I think he was like Muhammad Ali, what Muhammad Ali was to his time. But Sugar Ray Robinson, he was the best of all time, and I think he had the right to be very cocky. He was kicking ass. He was knocking everybody out. He was just taking names and just beating everybody he could. So when it came down to Sugar Ray Robinson being past his prime, at a certain point where he started losing a couple of his fights, he still managed to beat the guys he lost to in the rematches. And those are names like Rocky Graziano, Carmen Basilio, I forget, it was Gene Tunney, or I think Gene Tunney was a light heavyweight, but it was one of those guys that Sugar Robinson fought in the light heavyweight category, and he was winning the fight. He wanted to go for his third world title, his third weight world title, different weight category world title. That's what I'm trying to say. And he basically was kicking the guy's ass for 13 rounds, and then suddenly in the 14th round, he just could not go any longer. The heat was unbearable. The heat was so strong that the referee fainted. And not only that, but Sugar Robinson weighed 15 pounds less than the other guy, and he was still kicking his fucking ass. And next thing you know, you see Ray Robinson throw a wild, crazy hook and miss and fall to his knees. He just couldn't take it. He basically just was about to faint from the heat. So no doubt Sugar Robinson is a hell of a fighter. He's one of the toughest people there is. greatest middleweight of all time, perhaps the greatest welterweight of all time, because that's how he started out. But a lot of people like to give the honor of greatest welterweight of all time to Sugar Ray Leonard. While nowadays people start to wonder, could Floyd Mayweather be the greatest welterweight of all time? Who knows? But Sugar Ray Robinson, in my mind, no doubt, he is the greatest fighter. If you want to say greatest boxer of all time, sure, I could understand if you wanted to say Sugar Ray Robinson is not the greatest boxer of all time. But when it comes down to fighting, Sugar Ray Robinson was the greatest fighter of all time. There's a lot of possible matchups between Sugar Ray Robinson and a lot of other fighters, such as Sugar Ray Robinson versus Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Robinson versus Carlos Monzon, Sugar Ray Robinson versus what's his name, Roy Jones Jr. And in my opinion, those are all very interesting matchups. The easiest of them would be Sugar Ray Robinson versus Carlos Monzon. I think Sugar Ray Robinson would take it hands down. His toughest fight would probably be against Roy Jones Jr. And a war would probably be between Sugar Ray Robinson and Marvin Hagler. Those three middleweights, I think, are considered the best of all time, other than Sugar Ray. And that's because Marvin Hagler, of course, we know him as the scourge of the middleweights. He just dominated that weight for years. He only lost to Sugar Ray Leonard when he was dominating. He beat Thomas Hearns, Roberto Duran, John Mugabe. He was knocking everybody out. And even the fight with Sugar Ray Leonard is very controversial. And then you have Carlos Monzon, who lost 3 of his first 15 fights, and then he went on to be undefeated for the next 80 or so. And then you have Roy Jones Jr., an Olympic silver medalist who a lot of people say he got robbed of his gold. He went on to become professional, and in his prime was simply unbeatable. Had the most dazzling style of fighting there ever was. His highlights are considered the best highlights in boxing, and he was said to be so good at the sport that he actually enjoyed fighting and kicking ass in the professional ranks. So that's very hard to do, because usually you meet somebody who's your match and you're not gonna have a fun time. You're gonna get hit and you're not gonna like it. But Roy Jones Jr. rarely got hit, and he would just love to impress with his style of fighting, which was just spectacular. We would have a hard time catching up with his punches. That, needless to say, Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Robinson, he is famous for his speed. His own speed was spectacular. A lot of people said you could barely see Sugar Ray Robinson's punches, and not only that, but the power behind them. Roy Jones also has power behind his punches. His best punch was the left hook, while Ray Robinson's, I think, were both of his hooks. And that's very interesting to note that the middleweight best fighters were very well known for their hooks. I think Marvin Hagler's best punch was, in fact, the right hook, due to his being a southpaw. Carlos Monzon, I'm not exactly sure. I'll go check Fight Night Champions just to make sure. I don't even think he's in that game, but I'll check regardless. Yeah, so Sugar Ray Robinson, one of my favorite fighters of all time. Even Muhammad Ali considered him the master of the game. Sugar Ray Leonard said the only person he cared about when it came to him asking does he have the right to call himself Sugar was Sugar Ray Robinson, and once he said it was alright, he did not care no more. And it's a shame that Sugar Ray Robinson is not with us anymore. I remember seeing a picture of Joe Louis sitting with Sugar Ray Robinson, sitting with Muhammad Ali, and I thought that picture is spectacular. It's too much greatness in that picture. You guys can look it up online. It's on Google Images. Just type in, Joe Louis, Sugar Ray, and Muhammad Ali. It's a beautiful tale. If you were to read Sugar Ray Robinson's autobiography, you'll read how when he was little, he was carrying Joe Louis's bags all the way to the gym and back. And who would have known that the little kid in Detroit carrying the future heavyweight champ's bag would end up being the greatest boxer of all time. It's spectacular. I love it. That's one of the reasons why I love boxing, because it just seems to me like a fairy tale, you could say. It's corny, I know it's cheesy, but hey, I love it. I'm very into literature, and I like to think of boxing as a very good story. So thank you guys for tuning in. I love you guys. Keep the views coming, keep the likes coming. I'll keep the videos coming. Appreciate everything, and God bless. Good night.